Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Epic Sexual Health. I am your hostess, Dr. Julissa, and today I feel thrilled to invite the beautiful soul, Deeannah Sawyer, as a guest on the podcast today. Hello, Deeannah. I love that you're here with us.
Hello, thank you so much, Dr. Julissa, for having me. It's quite an honor.
I feel honored as well to have you here with me here, lovely, beautiful soul. I would love for you to begin sharing with the guests a little bit about you. I love that we are fellow sexual health lovers here in the sense of supporting people to achieve that sexual health that they deserve. So, yes, share with everyone a little bit about you. I know that it's 2 decades of fabulousness in a specific industry that brings you to have developed what you've developed today.
Yes. Well, it's funny. I kind of call myself an accidental entrepreneur, if you will. As you stated, had worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 20 years and loved that career. And it turned out during that time, I had been on a lot of antibiotics for sinus infections, and that resulted into sinus surgeries. And as women know, and men as well, uh, antibiotics can completely disrupt your flora, both in your gut and in your vagina. And I was searching for a holistic alternative for feminine care, but having a background in science, a degree in science, and then spending 20 years in the industry, it was really important to me to find an ingredient, a holistic ingredient backed by published clinical data. And I started doing some research and I found an ingredient called boric acid that was used in vaginal suppositories and also in rinses or douches. And I consulted with several OBGYNs and clinicians, and they loved boric acid and were aware of the clinical data on it. And the only way they could get it was through a compounding pharmacy for their patients. And it was really, really expensive. And I tried it. It changed my life. It was an amazing ingredient. And I was just thinking, why in the world is this not being made commercially? Because there's millions of women across the world who could benefit from it. So I am a firm believer that there are no coincidences in life. And as it turns out, my daughter played ice hockey. She was the only girl in a league of 300 boys. And her coach had a manufacturing facility that made holistic products for people and pets. And so I contacted him, and he's as a science nerd as well, and came armed with my stack of clinical studies on the ingredient, and we started producing it. And it was really, really something. We launched in 2014, and within 6 months on Amazon, it was the best seller in its category, which was really encouraging. But the most important thing was the fact that the women who had used it were evangelical about how it had changed their lives. So we knew we were onto something at that point, and that's how it came to be. And then I was a single mom during this time, and I had the security that I craved in that corporate position working in pharmaceuticals because it was a fantastic job. Um, and I was going to use it as my side hustle, if you will, to help pay for college expenses and everything. And then I got a nudge saying that I really needed to leave and run the company full time. And that's what I did. And now we're so grateful. pinch myself every day when my feet hit the floor, but we're in over 50,000 retailers now nationwide and have a whole line of products now for feminine care.
Oh, infinite blessings to you.
Indeed.
I absolutely agree with nothing is by chance. Even in spiritual teachings, we can sometimes even have to bring in when we're helping people to really achieve better health. We have to look into the fact that nothing is coincidence. Nothing is by chance.
Absolutely.
I'd love to go back and most times that's when people make those types of discoveries, looking for feeling that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yes.
looking for some sort of alternative. I applaud you for that, for taking your health into your own hands, which is what I encourage everyone in the world do, all my patients as well. So I'd love to go back for a moment.
Mhm.
Your issue began because of the overuse or the overprescription of the antibiotics use.
Mhm.
Very different from, obviously seeing male and female patients. That in the female patients that have come to me with challenges with the vaginal odor, many times it's the diet as well. In yours, absolutely, it was chemically caused.
Mhm.
And when you began using the boric acid, how long before you truly felt like yourself again or as normal?
Yeah, great question. And because each of our biomes and flora differs greatly from person to person, and different individuals will have different experiences with the product. But I truthfully, after one use, could tell a major difference. And then probably after 3 days is when I noticed that it was gone. So it was didn't take long at all. And it's interesting, I can say in the US, we're marketed as a cosmetic for vaginal odor. And I'm sure you might have some uh, listeners who are in Canada too, but we are required to market as a yeast infection treatment in Canada. So, but as many clinicians know the research that's done on the ingredient and use it appropriately.
Yes, okay. So, and the boric acid I was reading in your information is derived from seawater?
So it is naturally occurring in seawater.
Okay.
It's naturally occurring in the ground and the earth. Uh, but all boric acid, just like a lot of other vitamins that are produced, uh, that are naturally occurring, are actually produced uh, in a major facility, where it's not, they don't actually acquire, get it from seawater. It's produced, in a lab.
Understood. Okay. So this has changed the lives of so many women. Um, with that and in what you just shared with me that is produced in the lab, exactly what are the properties of boric acid that make it truly ideal as a base for your specific products?
Yeah, well, the fact that it's a holistic ingredient, uh, and
For that. All story. Yes.
and it is it's really interesting. Naturally occurring. It's been used for over 100 years in feminine health, and in addition to feminine health, it's been used for eye health, ear health. And I'd like to show you something. I keep this on my desk. You know, it's kind of like all those things that are old or new again. Um, we have a family uh, farm in Mississippi that's been in my family. My grand great grandparents started it, and it's still my uncle lives there now. And um, I found this in one of the bathrooms there. It's boric acid crystals in this old container. And then I went to every bathroom. It's kind of like a museum there. Not much has changed.
Okay. Okay.
And every bathroom had boric acid in it. And I just thought, again, there are no coincidences in life. Maybe I saw that as a child and it was in the back of my brain. I don't know.
Right, right. And I see that it said pour a wash.
Yes, it did for a wash. So, uh, it's it's a proven ingredient, so much so that my great grandparents used it, and it is, I'm all about a holistic solution. If there's an opportunity to use a holistic solution, and really getting people to rethink uh, their care, and as what you said, thinking of it more holistically, like from what you're putting in your body, your diet, um, exercise, what you're reading, ingesting in all ways is so so important because stress too plays a huge role in uh, as you know, in our health and the consequences of different maladies that we experience.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. In the realm of sexual health, the challenge of a woman experiencing issues with vaginal odor actually makes her feel like she pulls back from intimacy. Yes, she feels that she does not want to be, offending her partner,
Thanks.
that she can't release those desires
Right.
the way that she truly wants to. And so yes, I have this many a time, but the fact that you're that testimony to the fact that sometimes the antibiotics are just way overprescribed. My colleagues in conventional medicine, I sometimes have to work along with them with the same patient to talk about the other alternatives that are there because, we have to really come together. And it's not negating medicine altogether, but knowing that there are options as these that they can use natural therapies, use herbal therapies to rebalance themselves. I love what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, Dr. Julissa. That's one thing that I noticed from the very onset, um, particularly with the women that I would speak with personally, and from the reviews that they would leave on the product. You know, no one was talking about this, and it's very common that it's a common occurrence in women, and that there's so much shame associated with the fact that women have it. They think it's something, it's their fault, something that they've done. We get calls and emails, weekly. What have I done to cause this? It's oftentimes it's not your fault. It can happen. It can happen during hormonal changes. There are many women. It's very common. Once they near menopause, because their hormones are fluctuating, that all of a sudden they'll suddenly get vaginal odor, and it's women need to know that it's okay and that there's something that could be done about it, and they should not feel ashamed. But we've had women say to us, of course, it affected their intimacy, and it affected them wanting to exercise or get in a bathing suit. And I hear it over and over, ashamed or afraid to even get a pedicure because they're concerned that someone might smell their vaginal odor. And women have come up to our team and myself in with tears running down their face saying, thank you for creating an alternative for me that I can use for my vaginal odor. And what's been really, really something is when couples approach and like this product has saved our marriage, because we all know how important intimacy is to a relationship. So it really can have a negative effect on so many aspects of our lives, intimacy, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, So I love that you focus on the patients as a whole too. So
Oh, yes. Thank you. I appreciate you. Well, you have boric acid suppository. How is that in relation to, or let's say versus rinse? Why both products?
Yeah, great question. So,
Yes, and how do they differ? If
yeah, so the way I uh, developed the product, the way I first tried the boric acid, I didn't have access to a gelatin capsule, but
Mm.
I had access to water and boric acid. So, just like this says for a wash, um, that's how I first tried it. I essentially douched with boric acid and water, and that's how I knew it was so amazing. And studies have indicated that boric acid does not actually kill the lactobacilli uh, within the vagina, because lactobacilli is what creates that
Good bacteria.
uh, good bacteria that we need, that creates that favorable environment. And so we originally started out with the suppository, and the number one question we would get from healthcare providers as well as consumers was, how long do I have to wait to be intimate after inserting a suppository? Well, the answer is you have to wait until it completely dissolves. And that varies from person to person, depending on the amount of moisture you have in your vagina. We do recommend inserting it at night before you go to bed, but it can be anywhere from, 3 to maybe 6 hours. So many women wanted, an instant, quick fix, if you will, for their odor. And I was talking to the team. I'm like, well, have I told you the story of how I developed the product? And they're like, no. And I said, we get this question so often. Why don't we, you know, develop the original product that I tried? And so that's where we came out with the instant odor rinse. So it's another form of boric acid, just boric acid and water. Uh, so it's available at several retailers as well. And in addition to that, we also developed a boric acid suppository that has vitamin E and coconut oil in it, uh, because a lot of women who were, postmenopausal or going through menopause were using coconut oil already to insert the suppository. And again, I'm like, well, let's just solve that problem and create a moisturizing suppository that also works for odor. So you don't have to have odor to use the moisturizing suppository, um, but it does help with both. So it's kind of like a two in one product.
To help women with vaginas.
Yes.
And oh, lovely. Yeah, that's nice. Let's shift a little bit, and I'd love to touch upon the last two questions that I really know that our listeners would want to know more about. Any advice that you would have, Deanna, for women who want to start a business, any of the mistakes that they need to avoid, one or two lessons that you learned in the process, and well, first, how long have you been in business? It's since 2014, was it?
So 2014, and then in 2017 is when I left my corporate job to come over and run the company full time. And by the way, I've never had a business class in my life.
Yes, me neither. Okay. And been in business since 95, so I get it. I get it. Yep, on my own. So actually, yes, I would love for them to hear more about that so that women really truly feel empowered, apart from taking their health into their own hands, not allowing others to dictate what they need to do that they know may destroy their body in another way if they go too far off with chemicals and such, but also to take their business in their own hands. Please.
Absolutely. I feel like we are juggling so many things as women, um, and mothers, daughters, caretakers. We're all of the above. And our brains are always firing, I feel like, on all cylinders with so much information. And, but I feel like our superpower is intuition. And we don't lean into that enough. And looking back on my 20-year career, I had that intuition that I knew that this was not what I was called to do. And I could never voiced it to anyone, but I felt it, and I felt it in my soul. But I didn't know what that meant. And maybe I wasn't supposed to know what that meant. Maybe that was just that seed was being planted in me so that when the opportunity came, I I would be more likely to make that leap of faith. I don't know. But um I got to a point, I with fear ultimately was keeping me from coming and running the company. My fear of what if I couldn't provide for my family, my kids as a single mom, I had the insurance, I had company car, I had a pension. Like when I retired, I was gonna have a pension. I hardly have pensions now. So all these things that I was thinking, well, I can't give all of that up, you know, and it was fear that was keeping me from doing that. And thankfully, I was made to be really uncomfortable in that situation because I feel like sometimes we have to be made really uncomfortable before we can take that leap or do something that we otherwise probably wouldn't do. And I was made to be uncomfortable in that position based on uh, a manager that I have. She was not a member of my fan club, and I'm so grateful that that happened because that was the nudge I needed to get me to make the move. And I had a moment of clarity when it happened, and it was a divinely beautiful moment where I knew that I was not supposed to be there and that I was supposed to leave and run PhD. And it was the moment where I released all that fear and I had complete peace. And I knew that no matter what happened, that everything was going to be okay. But I couldn't not take that chance. And what's the worst thing that was going to happen? It was going to fail. Well, so what? I'm capable. I can get another job. So I went into it with that mentality and I'm not going to fear because fear, uh, it's like shackles. And I didn't want to be shackled. I wanted to be free of the fear and lean into what I was being called to do. So I feel like as women, we often feel that nudge or that push, but we we let fear preclude us from doing that. And I feel like it's easier said than done, I know, for a lot of people, but sometimes we just have to know that, like, what's the worst alternative? Failure, so what? I fail every day. And it's okay. And we learn from that and we move on and become better people as a result.
Well, beautiful. That inner guide, divine guidance. Yes, absolutely. As a Taoist, and in Buddhist teachings, we know that we really truly know the answers to everything. We're just not quiet enough to listen. Oh, I wonder. I love that you shared that magnificent. And I feel sad. This is one of our last questions. But I need to have you back here because to have another fellow woman in the realm of sexual health that supports holistic path, a naturopathic path, a natural healing path is a joy. So I
Thank you. I would come back anytime. But love conversation.
Me too, love it. And so lastly, are there any goals that you have for yourself or the company that you wish to specifically achieve in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yes, we are. First of all, we're so grateful that the that there is a narrative around menopause right now. And because I feel like up until the past 2 or 3 years, there really hasn't been one. It was hush hush. No one really talked about it. My mom didn't talk about it. And when we think about, you know, a lot of women will spend a third of their lives in menopause. And, you know, people just suffer through it. And they didn't talk about it. They didn't have open, honest conversations with other women about what to expect and what was normal or common. And we are leaning into that. And so our goals are to develop products, you know, for women in their late teens and early 20s, and to carry them all the way through the menopausal years and beyond. And that's what we're leaning into as a company, is to provide solutions for women throughout all stages of their lives. And, you know, we have a full-time product development scientist and a scientific advisory board. And we also have physicians and nurse practitioners who advise us on formulations and white spaces that exist in the market. So we're different from other companies in that we're really science minded and like to provide solutions that are scientifically sound but holistic. And so that's, you know, where we hope to be. And we hope to be a household name. We're on our way there right now, and to have a whole line of feminine care products to meet the needs of women at every stage of their life. That's our goal.
Magnificent. Again, infinite blessings. I love your story and how that proves once again that being sick and tired of being sick and tired is what pushes people
Yeah.
to really truly take their health into their own hands. And I applaud you also for doing so. We appreciate you for supporting everyone and on that journey as well.
Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to be with you.
Oh, the same here, lovely. And for all of you, thank you for joining us on another episode of Epic Sexual Health Podcast. We are going to be sure to have Deeannah Seymour join us once again, and we will talk to you all on the next episode. Bye now.